Eric Muathe with Muathe.com. Now, the other day when I was taking a look at the leadership stocks, as far as the Indian market is concerned, I highlighted some stocks that I would like to discuss. Here's a group of stock. Now, these ones will represent a good study for what quality stocks look like and their characteristics. So let's take a look at these stocks and take a look at the stocks. As best as I can, I'll look at all of them. Probably not get to all of them because it's quite a number of them, but I want to look at the main characteristics here for winning stocks. So here's one that did well. As you can see, a quality breakout here in 2010, and that's, let's call it about 700. It goes all the way to 7,500 in about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 5 years or so. Now, I'm not saying that if you bought it here, then you'd obviously sell it here. But even if you took any chunk of this move at any point, the moral of the story here is you would not be losing money. At least you'd have a chance of riding this monster run. Let's take a look at that initial breakout. I always like to do this even for my own self, so I can confirm that some of the things we look for are still legit. Here we can see that the RSI was jumping. Let's see what, so it's 07, so 1, 2, yep, we're moving to 3-year highs right there. We also moved the RSI above 69.1. I hope you can see that there. During that time period, RSI was above 69.1. We can see that the MACD here was also moving to 3-year highs, if not all-time highs on the MACD there. And the main of the default to MACD, the higher setting, was also moving to all-time highs, which might explain that after this breakout in price here, with the MACDs moving to all-time highs, we can even see that the RSI did actually move to all-time highs around that time period here. So that move to all-time highs on the RSI, and again, let's bring back the MACD. This move to all-time highs, and this is the time period here, shows, well, the MACD is at all-time highs, RSI is all-time high, RSI moving above 69.1. Hence, we get this nice explosion in price. And of course, the rest is history. We go on a major run. That's why we keep looking for the same characteristics, because we know that in the past and even in current markets, they are delivering results. Something else here we can actually, before we move on to the next stock here, is there's a breakout here in terms of the RSI highs. So let's get that. Okay, bear with me here. All right, so there's a breakout here. The RSI breakout was successful, as we can tell from what happened to price there. So this entry can also generate a line, and I want to highlight this because you can see that the stock would go on to find support here with uniform activity at the lows of 2011. It tagged the same level here at these lows, touched the same line here at the lows there, touch this line here for the lows here. One thing about the line, it happens to be at about 61.8. It's only until the stock breaks back below that 61.8 level that finally it comes off the high. So it's only until it breaks down here that we get this strong reversal. Even this slight support here led to this, so this drop here led to this pullback somewhere in the middle of 2015. So this pullback here, actually early 2015. So at the lows there, before you go on to record new highs, the stock also found support on that 61.8 level. It's a good example there for how quality stocks tend to find support and how they break out before they show a strong showing. Here we can see another example, and of course we can see the price breakout here. Good price breakout on the monthly. Right there, which corresponds with the RSI also moving to, let's call it, more than 3-year highs here, and also moving above 69.1. And we can see that coincided also with the RSI, with the MACDs, excuse me. So we're talking about a time period during this breakout right there. And we can see that the RSI or the MACD was moving to 3-year highs, and the other MACD was moving to more than 3-year highs, even approaching all-time highs. And the RSI, of course, moving to 3-year highs and moving above 69.1. That's why we get this good explosion in price from the breakout levels of about just above 800 to the highs here of about 1900 right there. Also, we see that the RSI had a good chance of staying above 69.1 throughout this entire process, where we have this strong move here. The RSI maintained the levels above 69.1. If we take a look at this other example, we can see that here's a RSI moving to all-time highs, corresponding with a breakout in the monthly chart there to new monthly highs. Let's call it about the lower 60s. And of course, we move from the lower 60s before the initial break all the way to 270. Huge rally. And then we can see that that breakout corresponded very well. So this breakout here, of course, we saw the RSI jump to all-time highs. RSI also moved above 69.1 during that time period. We see that the MACDs, or at least one of the MACDs, was moving to all-time highs. The other MACD was moving to multi-year highs. So of course it met the minimum requirement before that amazing move from the 60s to the highs of about 240. The stock would come back and find uniform activity support here. It does not drop below RSI 50 for the lows here. After holding, you can see that there's a chance for a recovery. It moves from this 110, 100 price range all the way to the highs of 300 after finding stability here on the RSI 50 level. In this example, we can see two breakouts. There's this breakout here during this huge run. There's a breakout. There's also another movement during this subsequent run. Let me just get this right. This run here. So there are two breakouts we can look at. Let's just do that so we can learn. This is also a process where I do this every day to try and learn as best as I can to tweak the system if I need to. And so we can see here that there was a breakout. Maybe this is the breakout here, that entry, this movement above that monthly closing high. It seems a little bit confusing there, but that coincides also with RSI moving to all-time highs here. It also corresponds, so now we're talking about the time period, this time period here. And we can see that at the very least, one of the MACDs was moving to all-time highs. So we can see there that that could have been a technical reason for this move here, this explosive move right here. Let's take a look at the next breakout. And now we go to this breakout here. We can see that we are moving to more than 3-year highs at the beginning of 2016. We are also moving above RSI level of 69.1. So the same things we look at, just different stocks showing the same type of RSI and MACD formations. And just to be clear, so we can capture this correctly, talking about this breakout here, this time frame. And again, to bring back that RSI chart, RSI moving to 3-year highs, also moving above 61.8 in more than, let's call it about 6 years or 5 years or so. So more than the 3-year requirement. Here we have another MACD breakout to more than 3 years. And of course we see that the main MACD was also moving to all-time highs. So it met the minimum requirement, no question about that. And then we see this breakout. So we're talking about this breakout here on a month-to-month basis. Let me get that correct. There's a monthly closing high there. We settle down for a month, maybe 2 months, and then we break out. It's that breakout there in the mid-60s that takes the stock from the breakout levels there of about 65 to the highs of current highs of about 240. Here we can also see a good example of uniformity at the lows, and we can see that this was a breakout of the lows here that was very successful, moving from the mid-20s to the highs here of 140. So this was a good RSI action, the stock is telling us. So anytime we come back to this line and show uniform activity support, we know that that means that the stock is due for a bounce. Uniform activity support here for these lows, which were successful lows. Uniform activity support here for the lows here, which was successful, and also here. Looks like a double bottom, which is this process here of the lows, and of course for a good recovery. So we see here evidence of uniformity during the major lows as far as this stock is concerned. Now remember, these stocks come from the leadership stock in the current market as of March 2017, and this is why those leadership sectors are in the leadership spot. They have been doing amazing technical breakouts, which might explain for the price explosion. Here we can see that this breakout above the recent monthly closing high, the breakout there, let's call it in the mid 40s or the 40s there, broke out to the RSI, moving to all-time highs, moving to 3-year highs, and also moving above the 61.8 level. So that's a quality breakout in terms of the RSI. RSI eventually captures the level above 69.1 after the breakout and stays above 69.1, going back all the way to mid 2000 and let's call it mid 2000 and late 2017. So at some point here, RSI moves above 69.1. It has defended that level from late 2015 into March 2017. If we take a look at the breakout, we can see that definitely this time period also corresponds nicely with the RSI moving to 3-year highs and the default MACD, the MACD moving to 3-year highs here, and the other MACD moving to all-time highs. And of course we are talking about the RSI breakout there. So it met the minimum requirement as it was breaking out, and it has had an amazing run after recording that technical breakout or after meeting the minimum requirements for the ultimate Muathe breakout. Here's another one here, and maybe we can zoom in so we can capture the data properly. So let me try and zoom in here. So since about 2014, and so we can take a look at two breakouts here. There's the first breakout here above that monthly closing high. There's a subsequent breakout over the last 3 months here, and in each instance we can see that the RSI met the minimum requirements. RSI was moving to all-time highs here, and at the second breakout we can see that there was another breakout to all-time highs by the RSI, and the RSI also moving above 69.1, which might explain this explosion. But the real price explosion comes when the RSI is above 69.1, something that we already know, that stocks tend to have an amazing energy or amazing momentum and force whenever they are holding above the 69.1 level. take a look at those two breakouts, see what the MACDs were doing. So we're talking about this breakout period here and the subsequent breakout period here. We can see that on the first breakout, at least one of the MACDs was moving to all-time highs. We only need one of them to move to all-time highs. And during the second breakout, which led to a little bit of an uptick in momentum, also corresponds with both MACDs moving to all-time highs. So definitely it met the minimum requirements. Let's take a look at the next breakout here. I want to zoom in here so we can have a little bit of a better view of the price action and the indicators action. And here we have all the data zoomed in, all monthly data. All right, so we're going to take a look at this breakout here that was very successful. We're talking about breakout. We can even use this period here, this price breakout in the 40s there, and we move from 40 all the way to 340. So 340. That's a huge return in a couple of months. About, let's see, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 months. So exactly about 1 year. Let's take a look at what the technicals were doing during that breakout. And of course, the time period we are looking at is this time period here. And of course, we can see that, yes, you can either draw the line right there. You have your RSI moving to 3-year highs. Take a look at the MACDs. One of the MACDs for sure is moving to 3-year highs. And the other MACD, the default MACD setting or the bigger time frame MACD, was moving to all-time highs. And of course, we're talking about the breakout, this breakout here. So it met all the minimum requirements, which might explain the explosion in price. Also, might just make sense for me to share with you what I see here. There was a breakout. That breakout was also successful. Of course, this breakout corresponds with this entry. So we can draw our uniformity support line. And without any type of adjustment, the market has already bounced on that line here for the lows of early 2016. And here also seems to be bouncing for the lows of late 2016. There's also another line connecting RSI lows, which seems to be holding the stock together. So stocks tend to have an amazing memory. As you can see, this line also corresponds to the recent lows in terms of the RSI here, here, and now here. So that's some of the characteristics we look for when we're trying to find either breakouts or trying to find rebound areas in any stock. Let's take a look at this one here. We're going to zoom in. And we definitely can see two breakouts that we can discuss here. Of course, there's this initial breakout. In fact, we can even draw it below here because it's going to make sense with the technical parameters. And there's another breakout. That was the closing high, and then you break out again. And of course, they meet the minimum requirements. No question about this. This breakout here, or this one, or this one. And let's take a look at those time periods. Take a look at what the RSI and MACDs were doing. All right. So let's go take a look at the first breakout, which is this breakout here. Right there. And of course, we were moving to 3-year highs, all-time highs on the RSI. No doubt about that. This breakout there. You can see that the MACD was also moving to all-time highs. and this MACD was also moving to all-time highs. So met the minimum requirement during that first breakout. Second breakout, let me see, is this one here. That breakout. Let's take a look at the time period, which is here, this time period. And of course, there's a move to all-time highs on the RSI, on the monthly. By the way, of course, you know these are monthly charts. I hope I mentioned that. We also move above 69.1. So that's a check mark. MACDs during that time window also moving to all-time highs on both MACD settings, which might explain why we went into an explosive run. So no problem here with terms of minimum requirements, and of course, even from the most recent breakout, the stock would move from the mid-30s to the current highs here of 150 that was recorded late 2015 after it met that minimum requirement. So no problem there in terms of minimum requirement. Let's move on to the next idea or the next candidate. And what I'm gonna do on this one is just have this on the video here. If you want to check to see whether they meet the minimum requirements, you can pause the video, but definitely they do. All right, just saving time here. Let's move on to the next one. And here we see a little bit of a different discussion here. Now we can save time if we take a look at the two breakouts, not the best breakouts. This breakout here and this breakout. Yes, they were net positive and successful, but I'll show you why they did not work as best as the other ideas. And let's take a look at the first breakout. And the breakout is from this RSI movement, moves to all-time highs on the monthly. MACDs move to all-time highs. So it meets the minimum requirement, which might explain why it had a decent run in 09. All right, no problem about that. The breakouts met the minimum requirements, and of course we're talking about the time period here. All right, now I'll show you why they did not have a stronger move. You can see uniform activity rejection when trying to move above 69.1, which is a good reason why it stalled right there, did not move beyond this price range. Now the next breakout runs into the same problem. So let's get the breakout, and we're talking about, we can use as a monthly closing high there. We can use that breakout, which was decent return, or we can use this true breakout. Both of them are valid, either this lower breakout or this one. They are valid because at the time of the breakout, the stock met the minimum requirements. RSI was moving to 3-year highs, and we can see that the MACDs were also moving to 3-year highs. And of course, it's always good to have that time period so we can see it precisely. So we can see, yes, it met the minimum requirements on both parameters in terms of technical indicators moving to 3-year highs, prices breaking out. And again, you can see the problem here is the stock ran into uniform activity rejection here when trying to move above 69.1. That uniform activity rejection is the reason why it stalled, did not move beyond that point. Also, I can see another reason why recently it stalled, and it is the fact that it came back to test this breakout or this break, which brought it off the highs of 2010. This break, the break there brings it lower. We take that information and draw a line from there. You can see uniform activity, rejection, above the line and back below it. That is a sell signal. So that's why it stalled. And also don't forget that observation that it failed to move above the 69.1 level here. So that's why this one, even though it met the minimum requirements on the two breakouts, which were, let's call it decent returns, but they was halted. The upward thrust was limited because of rejection at 69.1 and also uniformity resistance rejection. Now keep in mind, let me just do this so it can make sense. In fact, what I can do, let me zoom in here. It's a good illustration of how to draw those uniformity lines. Let's go back to 06. Alright, so this RSI resistance line, or the uniformity resistance line, can actually be drawn a little bit different. I had drawn the line this way, which is okay, because the break of that line, this break, is what gave us this line here. And of course you can see uniform activity above the line back below it. So that line is legit. But I can change a little bit and actually capture the line slightly different. What I'm gonna do is gonna draw the line like that, because it makes more sense. It broke down here in 2010, and that is precisely off the highs there. Now if I draw a line from there, it should be something a little bit higher than the previous line. You can see that it makes more sense because it hit that line there, which is the monthly closing high right there. And here we have uniform activity above the line and back below it. So sometimes you need to make an adjustment on your uniformity lines, but don't be too stressed about this. You just want the line to make sense. And here we can see that either of the lines are still valid. I think the top line makes more sense, and again, the reason being that it gives us the two sell points. So this line here was a break. We draw a line from there, and you can see uniform activity rejection at the highs there, which corresponds with this precise monthly closing high there, and it drops. And recently we've gone above the line and back below it with uniform action, which meant that this was also a sell signal month. Hope that makes sense. Let's take a look at the next one. And here, before I go too far, I can see uniform activity rejection here when trying to move above 69.1 for the highs here. Uniform activity rejection here, you went above 69.1 and back below it with uniform action for the highs there. It is only when recently we see that it held above that 69.1 threshold that it changed its dynamics and went from about this $8 price range to the current highs here of about the higher 30s. Why? Because the RSI held above 69.1 throughout most of mid 2016 to early 2017, which might explain this price explosion because of the RSI holding above 69.1. Now this one, I hope you can identify from this chart why we get that breakout. Keep in mind, one of our minimum requirements is that the RSI just needs to be above 69.1. So this time period here, this period corresponds very well that right there with the MACDs moving to all-time highs. The other MACD also moved to all-time highs, and we can see that the RSI moved above 69.1. That meets the minimum requirements during that breakout, and for the first time in the stock's history, it managed to break out. Here it failed, here it failed, but here it broke out and sustained higher levels because it held above 69.1, which is the reason why this one had a more staying power than the previous attempts, which failed to hold above 69.1. Take a look at the next one. Similar type situation. You can see the breakouts here. You can see where it broke out to 3-year highs. So what I'm going to do for you is just highlight the period. We're talking about this time period. I hope you can see for yourself. You can pause the video, but definitely that the breakout was taking place. You clearly see that there is RSI movement to 3-year highs, or should I just draw them? RSI 3-year highs, MACDs moving to 3-year highs, MACD moving to all-time highs during that breakout. So definitely minimum requirements met, price breakout, RSI 3-year highs, MACDs 3-year highs, and all-time highs on the MACD, which might explain this price explosion from the $15 rupee price range to the highs here, or even take this high, initial high. Either way, it was a successful breakout. Here's another one, and this one is easy to identify, so I'll just show you the time period we're talking about. It's this breakout period here, so that I can get more data in here. All the data. All right, good. So we're talking about this time period, and of course corresponding with this price breakout. So that's the monthly closing high. You got the price breakout, and of course you see that the RSI broke out, MACDs 3-year highs, MACDs moving above 0 for the first time ever, and also moving to 3-year highs. After that breakout in the 20s, stock would go on to record the highs here of about 160. Why? Because it met the minimum requirement. Now take a look at this price explosion from the 20s to the highs here in the 150. That's a huge move. Anybody would want to own that. So what I'm gonna do here, let me zoom in so we can have all this from a better view. All right, so here is all the data, monthly chart, and what we are trying to highlight here is the breakout that was successful. We can take this breakout right there, monthly closing high. You break out above that, which is here. Take a look at what the RSI was doing. RSI was breaking out to all-time highs, so you knew there was potential there. We're talking about this MACD moving to all-time highs, and of course I want to have the window there so we don't confuse. That's the time frame, and we can see that the other MACD was also moving to 3-year highs. So definitely met the minimum requirements in terms of the technical picture, RSI and MACDs. And after that breakout here, you can see this absolutely amazing run. And that's why we are constantly on the lookout for quality Muathe breakouts. And keep in mind, all these stocks took many months. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 months at the very least to capture most of these moves. So you can't avoid holding for months if you want to be part of an amazing run. Let's take a look at the last one here, and clearly you can see uniform activity rejection here for the highs there and a pullback, and those are sometimes easy to spot. And let's take a look at the most recent breakout. We're talking about the breakout. I guess we can even capture this breakout here. MACDs. We're talking about this breakout here. It's not the best breakout in my opinion. Oh, let me get that time frame correct. So that's the time frame there. Not the best breakout, even though yes, it was successful. Either you can use this breakout here, or there's a breakout somewhere here. Not the best looking chart, but it met the minimum requirement. Breakout to all-time highs and moving above 69.1. MACDs moving to 3-year highs, if not all-time highs, which might explain why the stock has seen short-term spike moving from here of about, let's call it 6 to here of about 1750. But you can also see the problem it ran into. This is uniform activity above 69.1 and back below it, which might explain why it swiftly dropped from 1750 to the lows here of 750. So not the best looking chart, I'll be honest with you, but at least we see that once it met the minimum requirement, you could have been part of this huge return. We're talking about maybe 130% gain in about 2 months, 3 months. I would take that any day, and I'm sure you would any day. The reason why it did well is because it met that minimum requirement. Alright, that was a quick look at the ultimate Muathe breakout by taking a look at the leadership stocks that are leading the Indian market as of early 2017. Eric Muathe, Muathe.com. As always, good luck, peace, and blessings. ESC.